cortisol, epinephrine, adrenaline. Let's start with cortisol. Cortisol is a type of steroid hormone, similar to hormones like estrogen and testosterone. All three are made from cholesterol. So, it's important to know that cholesterol acts as a building block. It's the starting material used to produce many hormones, including testosterone, estrogen, and cortisol. Now, here's something key. No matter how much cholesterol you consume or your body makes, when you're under stress, your body will prioritize using that cholesterol to create more cortisol. That's because cortisol is known as a stress hormone. But don't worry, stress and cortisol aren't always bad. In fact, cortisol is essential for your health. You need a healthy amount of cortisol for your immune system, memory, and mood. Too little cortisol can cause problems. The goal is to keep cortisol at balanced levels, not too high, and not at the wrong times of the day. The same goes for epinephrine, also known as adrenaline. It often gets a bad reputation because we associate it with anxiety and the fight or flight response. But in reality, adrenaline is incredibly helpful. It supports your immune defense, helps you remember things better, and boosts your brain's ability to learn and adapt. The main point is this: cortisol and adrenaline aren't good or bad by themselves. They are powerful allies when released in the right amounts, at the right times. Problems arise only when they're out of balance. Don't worry, we'll explore plenty of ways to help your body manage these hormones properly. Cortisol and epinephrine. Biology. Let's break down what happens in your body when you experience stress. Quickly and simply, within minutes, your brain begins producing what are called releasing hormones. One important one is corticotropin-releasing hormone. This hormone is made by neurons in your brain, and it signals the pituitary gland, a small, pea-sized gland located just behind the roof of your mouth at the base of your brain. Once the pituitary gets that signal, it releases another hormone called ACTH. ACTH travels through your bloodstream to your adrenal glands, which sit on top of your kidneys in your lower back. The adrenal glands then release cortisol. Cortisol is often called the stress hormone, but it might be more helpful to think of it as a mobilization hormone or energy hormone. It puts your body and brain into a state where you're ready to act. You're more awake, less interested in resting, and usually not hungry at first. This helps you respond quickly to challenges. Let's quickly cover epinephrine, adrenaline. When your mind or body detects something threatening, whether it's emotional pressure or physical harm, your nervous system sends signals to a group of neurons in your torso called the sympathetic chain ganglia. These nerves release norepinephrine very rapidly. Think of it like a fire sprinkler system. Norepinephrine floods your body almost instantly. This boosts your heart rate, increases your breathing, and opens up blood vessels to direct more blood to your essential organs and muscles. At the same time, your adrenal glands also release adrenaline, and a specific part of your brain called the locus coeruleus releases more to keep you mentally sharp. This hormone sharpens your focus, boosts alertness, and helps your brain stay ready to react. In short, cortisol and adrenaline work together to help your body and brain respond to stress. They're not just stress hormones. They're key to energy, movement, and survival when used in the right amount. Timing cortisol release. Tool: morning sunlight. Exposure. Cortisol and epinephrine work in tandem to boost energy levels. The initial strategy is to ensure your cortisol peaks when you first rise in the morning. Naturally, your body experiences a cortisol surge every 24 hours, which prompts you to transition from a horizontal sleeping state to an upright active one. To optimize this process, step outside within 30 minutes of waking and expose yourself to sunlight, regardless of cloud cover. Avoid wearing sunglasses during this time. This early light exposure allows you to synchronize your cortisol release with the start of your day, enhancing focus, vitality, and cognitive performance throughout the day. The effectiveness of this method varies based on weather conditions. On a clear day, with the sun low in the sky, light intensity can reach around 100,000 lux. Overcast days still provide about 10,000 lux, which is significantly more than bright artificial indoor lighting, about 1,000 lux, or standard room illumination, 100, 200 lux, 1. Therefore, even on cloudy days, outdoor light exposure is far more beneficial than relying on indoor lighting or electronic devices for stimulating cortisol release. To achieve optimal results, aim for 10 minutes of outdoor time on bright, clear days. For overcast conditions, extend this to about 30 minutes. On partially cloudy days, 10, 20 minutes should suffice. Consistency is key in this practice to maintain proper energy regulation throughout the day. 1. Daytime stress, learning, and cortisol. We all encounter a variety of experiences in life, and most of you are not dedicating your entire day to perfecting your health. While some may focus on this, the majority have jobs, families, and responsibilities that demand attention. Life inevitably brings challenges and stressors, which lead to temporary spikes in cortisol and epinephrine levels. The important thing is to ensure that these increases are short-lived. Frequent or prolonged elevations in these hormones can result in chronic stress, which is harmful to both the body and mind. The stress response system is designed to heighten your awareness and prepare you for action. It can create frustration, but also opens the door for behavioral changes. Cortisol, when released into the bloodstream, interacts with receptors in the brain. It binds to areas like the amygdala, which is involved in detecting fear and threats, as well as regions responsible for learning, memory, and neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to adapt and rewire itself based on experiences. This is why I emphasize that neuroplasticity is triggered by attention, focus, and sometimes a mild state of agitation. Recognizing this connection can help you see minor stress surges throughout the day as less concerning. Instead of being overwhelmed by these small stressors, you can view them as natural responses that enable growth and adaptation. Understanding the purpose of stress is crucial. It is meant to sharpen your focus and motivate you to take action. Keeping stress short-term is essential. Avoid letting it linger for too long or occur too frequently, as this can lead to chronic issues. You can channel the energy from stress into solving problems or making positive changes. After periods of stress, allow time for relaxation and recovery to restore balance. Gradual exposure to manageable stressors can strengthen your ability to cope with future challenges. By reframing how you perceive stress and its effects on human thoughts. Tool: increase energy, ice baths, cyclic breathing, HIIT. Stress-inducing practices like deliberate cold exposure, controlled breathing techniques, and intense physical training can serve as tools to strengthen your resilience when used strategically. These methods trigger temporary spikes in epinephrine and cortisol, much like unexpected life stressors do. However, their value lies in how you schedule and dose these practices to avoid chronic hormone elevation while building stress tolerance. These practices cause immediate norepinephrine surges linked to alertness, but don't significantly alter cortisol levels in healthy individuals. This makes them useful for stress inoculation, training your body to stay calm under pressure, which can translate to better emotional regulation during conflicts or challenges. Some techniques sharply boost cortisol and testosterone during sessions, but levels return to baseline within hours. While beneficial for energy and metabolic health, frequent intense sessions without recovery risk prolonged cortisol elevation, undermining immune function. The key is balancing these practices with rest. Studies show low-intensity exercise and mindfulness techniques actively lower cortisol, counteracting stress. Your body responds similarly to all stressors by releasing adrenaline. While reframing stress as positive doesn't block its biochemical effects, it can amplify dopamine release, which buffers adrenaline's intensity and enhances your sense of control. Rhythmic breathing triggers warmth and alertness through adrenaline surges, but pairing it with intentional focus may enhance dopamine's moderating effects. To optimize energy and resilience, consider timing stress practices in the first half of the day to align with natural cortisol rhythms. Limit intense sessions to 2-3 times weekly to prevent hormone depletion. Pair these practices with recovery strategies such as proper hydration, sleep hygiene, and mindfulness to restore balance. By treat, brief stressors and immune system. The idea that short-term stress can boost immune defenses is supported by established research showing controlled activation of stress hormones temporarily strengthens infection resistance. This counterintuitive concept involves carefully timed cortisol and epinephrine spikes, enhancing immune readiness rather than weakening it. Foundational work in this area reveals that acute stress primes immune cells for action by altering their distribution and function. For brief periods, stressors enhance immune responses, but prolonged stress reverses these benefits. The key is ensuring that stress remains short-lived, typically lasting from minutes to a few days. Recent studies have further illuminated this principle, demonstrating that deliberate adrenaline activation can significantly impact immune function. By leveraging techniques that spike epinephrine levels, individuals can mobilize protective immune responses, which can lead to milder symptoms during infections. Understanding how to harness stress hormones effectively allows you to use them as a tool rather than a threat. By strategically activating and then resolving stress responses, you can optimize both immunity and resilience. This approach involves balancing stress-inducing practices with recovery strategies to prevent immune exhaustion. By mastering this balance, you can enhance your body's ability to respond to challenges without succumbing to chronic stress. Chronic stress, cortisol, hunger, and food. Choice. Chronic elevation of cortisol and epinephrine can have detrimental effects on the body. Over time, persistent high levels of these stress hormones can weaken the immune system, making it less effective at fighting off infections. This prolonged stress state can also lead to changes in body composition, particularly the accumulation of body fat in specific areas. The relationship between stress and food cravings, especially for high-fat and high-sugar foods, is rooted in the body's hormonal responses. Glucocorticoids, with cortisol being a primary example, play a crucial role in this process. Normally, the body has a negative feedback loop where high levels of glucocorticoids signal the brain and pituitary gland to reduce hormone production. However, when stress persists beyond a certain threshold, typically 4 to 7 days, this feedback mechanism becomes disrupted. In cases of chronic stress, the relationship between the adrenal glands, brain, and pituitary gland shifts. Instead of shutting down hormone production in response to high cortisol levels, the brain and pituitary begin to respond by releasing even more stress hormones. This creates a positive feedback loop, where stress begets more stress, potentially leading to a cascade of negative health effects. The duration of stress exposure significantly influences its impact on appetite and food preferences. Short-term stress often suppresses hunger, while prolonged stress tends to trigger increased appetite, particularly for comfort foods rich in sugar and fat. This shift in eating patterns can contribute to various health issues, including metabolic disorders and changes in adrenal function. Learning to effectively manage and reduce the stress response is crucial for maintaining overall health and preventing these adverse effects. This involves developing strategies to interrupt the stress cycle and return the body to a more balanced state. By doing so, one can meet cortisol, epinephrine, adrenaline. Let's start with cortisol. Cortisol is a type of steroid hormone, similar to hormones like estrogen and testosterone. All three are made from cholesterol. So, it's important to know that cholesterol acts as a building block. It's the starting material used to produce many hormones, including testosterone, estrogen, and cortisol. Now, here's something key. No matter how much cholesterol you consume or your body makes, when you're under stress, your body will prioritize using that cholesterol to create more cortisol. That's because cortisol is known as a stress hormone. But don't worry, stress and cortisol aren't always bad. In fact, cortisol is essential for your health. You need a healthy amount of cortisol for your immune system, memory, and mood. Too little cortisol can cause problems. The goal is to keep cortisol at balanced levels, not too high, and not at the wrong times of the day. The same goes for epinephrine, also known as adrenaline. It often gets a bad reputation because we associate it with anxiety and the fight or flight response. But in reality, adrenaline is incredibly helpful. It supports your immune defense, helps you remember things better, and boosts your brain's ability to learn and adapt to sokama. The main point is this: cortisol and adrenaline aren't good or bad by themselves. They are powerful allies when released in the right amounts, at the right times. Problems arise only when they're out of balance. Don't worry, we'll explore plenty of ways to help your body manage these hormones properly.